Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for carving out some time of your day today. It means the world to me, especially being in the back of the room. I was all paranoid that nobody would find this, but clearly we did something right. So thank you for coming out. I promise you that you'll get something out of this. My goal is that you get at least one key takeaway out of this. I will move quickly. We won't go super deep here because we only have about 20-30 minutes, and I certainly want to leave some time at the end if any of you have questions, as well as if you want to come up and have an additional conversation with me. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I want to tell you a little bit more about me. I think it's important that you know who's up here telling you this stuff. So we'll breeze through this. So I am the owner and founder of Socialistics. We are a full-service social media agency. We've been in business for about 4 years. 25 years of marketing experience across a variety of different companies, with the past 15 really focused on social media. I've worked for Microsoft, a couple brands in their portfolio. We've taken on clients like the U.S. Air Force, Habitat for Humanity are some brands that you've probably heard of. I've been on Forbes Power Social Media Influencer list for a lot of the work that I've done around B2B social media. Owner and founder of Socialistics, talked about that already. I host a podcast where I talk a lot about this stuff. I'm the author of a book called The Anti-Agency that talks about the business that we built. I'm going to give away some free copies of that here for you as well. And lastly, I hate social media, which seems like a pretty ridiculous thing for a social media agency owner to say. But there's a reason that I'm saying that, because don't let your personal opinion of social media dictate whether or not you get serious about it with your business, because they're two separate things, right? So let's go ahead and get a jump in. 3 takeaways that I really want you to get from this. What makes B2B social different? What makes it unique in comparison to B2C? Why is it important? And then how does it work? So we're going to kind of touch on some of those key concepts today. I'm going to give you a couple case studies of work that we've done that kind of give you examples of that as well. And the last slide that I'm going to show you is going to give you some really great tools that you can walk away from this with to really kind of get some more insight about what's possible for you. So stick around and I'll share that with you. Always want to start a presentation off with some numbers, right? Anybody can dig up charts that quantify what they want to talk about, but trust me when I say that these things are true. And I'm just going to touch on some of the overviews of these things. Really what these are designed to kind of share with you is how are B2B marketers using social media and to what extent in their overall marketing portfolio. And it's significant, right? And this chart's just basically showing that social media advertising and promoted posts take up a pretty big portion of that. On this slide, it's really about 84% of B2B executives source social media to make buying decisions. Why is that important? Because the prospects that you're trying to get in front of, they're using those sorts of tools in their buyer journey. So they're there and they're using it. And 72% of B2B buyers use social media to research those solutions. So you want to be in these places. And a lot of these charts kind of determine or show you the significance of that. These next couple charts show you, what's the distribution typically of B2B marketing spend for businesses. Now social media isn't at the top, but it's in the top 5, and it continues to grow. So if you're not doing that, or if you're not taking it seriously, then you're certainly missing an opportunity. Here's another chart basically showing which ones produce the highest ROI. And again, social media comes in around 5th. Now a lot of these other things like email marketing and SEO and content marketing, they all intertwine. So these are really just meant to be here to show you the importance of social media and how it can actually generate real results for your B2B businesses. And then also, which platforms are companies using? Obviously, it's a no-brainer that LinkedIn makes the most sense and where most businesses invest predominantly. But a lot of people like to write off Facebook, right, for a variety of reasons. And again, that goes back to that personal business thing. You may not like it, but people are there. Billions of people use it. Think of your B2B decision makers, what they do at home, when they're in front of their TV, scrolling on their second screen. Always be selling, right? They're there. So you want to be in those places. And then lastly, just a slide that just reinforces how powerful LinkedIn can be for you. It's a little bit tougher platform to navigate. It's a little bit more expensive, but it works, all right? So that's what these numbers are really kind of designed just to reinforce how this can work for you. So let's talk a little bit about what a B2B social media funnel looks like. Now this is a little different. Many of you have probably seen traditional B2B marketing funnels. I've kind of rejiggered this a bit to be specific just to social media. So it's really 4 stages, which is finding and connecting, providing value and building trust, building relationships, and then moving that conversation offline to convert sales. And now we're going to kind of jump into each one of those and what I mean by that. So the first step is really about, you got to find the people that you want to get in front of, right? This is where you're going to have to spend a little bit of money. You're going to have to spend some money on paid search, the hard cost of putting ads on Facebook or LinkedIn. You got to get that conversation going. You got to get in front of the right people, right? That involves really researching your audience, creating personas. This is where a lot of businesses, they kind of skip over this step. You really need to kind of define who is it that you're trying to target. What makes that person tick, personally and professionally? Really getting granular with who that person is, because that's going to fuel how you advertise on these channels. And then running paid media campaigns to kind of start getting some brand recognition and some visibility for your business, whether that's through Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And I see a lot of movement around influencer, which traditionally has been pretty heavy on the B2C side, but it's really picking up on B2B. There's all kinds of influencers in the world that can tie into what you do. And it's an incredible way to extend your audience and reach people in a non-paid way. So when you kind of combine these things, when you're coming out of the gate, you're starting to build that momentum. You're starting to get people to recognize who you are and what you got going on. So what's the next step? Now you got to start providing value and building trust. This is where a lot of businesses also fail. It can be easier to just kind of throw some money at a Facebook ad campaign or putting some ads out there and kind of getting some attention for yourself. But that only goes so far. You've got to be interesting. You've got to have a story. You've got to be different. A lot of the clients that we talk to in the beginning stages, we always ask questions. What makes you unique? What's different about you? Oh, our prices are great. We got better prices. No. Oh, our customer service, it's fantastic. Everybody says that. No. What's the thing that actually makes you stand out? What's your story? What is it that people are going to connect to? It's all about storytelling. People love stories. We've loved stories since the beginning of time, and that's never going to change. Platforms will change. Storytelling never changes. What's your story? So you really need to commit to what that story is, what value you're going to bring, and how you're going to put that out consistently, organically, social content, regularly, right? Not necessarily every day, 3 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever makes sense for you. Be consistent. Be consistent and make sure that you got your story dialed in. Blogging, podcasting. Podcasting's blowing up. It's huge. The barrier to entry to podcasting is not as significant as you would think. You can get one up pretty quickly and you'd be amazed at what kind of a difference that can make for you. It's a great place to tell stories too. Video, short form video is huge. 15 seconds. My team keeps bothering me every week. Film a video talking about the top 5 things of this thing. I'm like, how long does it need to be? 15 seconds. And it takes me 30 minutes to do it in 15 seconds, but they work. Short form video, people have short attention spans, so they're very valuable. And then doing webinars, it's that value add. And then social listening, right? Having a team or a partner that can pay attention to what people are saying about your industry so that you can insert yourself into those conversations. These are the kinds of efforts over time that are going to start to bear fruit for your business. Now we move into building relationships, right? Now you've got their attention, now you've earned some of their trust. Now you want to build a relationship with them. How do you do that? Well, now you start introducing some long-form content, right? Lead magnets. I'm sure some of you have heard of that. White papers, books, ebooks, something that's just a little bit more meat on the bone, because now you've got their attention, you've earned their trust a little bit. Now they want a little bit more from you, right? Now this is where you can start working in the asks, right? Hey, download this white paper in exchange for your email address or something along those lines. So building out those types of resources that continue that relationship, and then turning those social media efforts into real world contact info, email addresses or phone numbers. And then even maybe peppering in what's called social selling, which some of you may have heard of. We've done some of that too. One-to-one conversations, leveraging LinkedIn to create real conversations with people that are specific to them, using their targeting features to find the right people, the right decision makers, and bringing it all together. So you're kind of building these relationships. So you kind of put all of these things in place. The next is then sales conversion, right? Now you've found them, you built their trust, now you've provided some additional value for them. Now they're ready to kind of take the conversation to the next level. Not everybody, but if you're doing these things and you've got a great product or service, you're following these methods, A good percentage of these folks are going to turn into customers or clients eventually, right? Now you got to make sure that you got the systems in place where you're paying attention to that customer life cycle. It could be lead scoring, right? If you've got a CRM in place, if they respond to emails or any actions that they do, you associate scores with those things. It hits a certain number, and that triggers, it goes to your sales team. They're ready. They're a buyer now. Or it may not be that automated. It may just be as simple as, this looks like somebody that's ready to buy, let's engage with them. And then you're shifting into a kind of a one-to-one relationship. And then the hope is that they become a client. And on top of that, loyalty and advocacy, right? If they have enjoyed working with you, they've had a great experience, it's almost like they become an extended part of your sales team. If you provide value and you build relationships and you deliver on your customer or client promise, I promise you that your customers and your clients can be your best salespeople. You put these things in motion, and this is what happens. So that's basically kind of the funnel and what that looks like. Now I want to show you a couple examples of work that we've done that have kind of implemented these strategies and what that looks like, to kind of give you a real world example. The first is a company that we work with called Trupanion. They are a pet insurance company, one of the bigger ones, and they wanted to build a community of engaged veterinarian professionals that lead to a consistent funnel of Trupanion software inquiries. Pretty specific thing, very specific audience, and a very specific ask. That's a good thing, because that allows you, if you're in a similar situation, to build a really great story for a very specific audience. So this was a great fit for us because of that fact. So what did the work consist of? Managing Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn to develop ad campaigns to get in front of veterinarian professionals. Probably office admins, because they're the real people behind those types of facilities. They're the gatekeepers. So targeting those folks and introducing the client. Running ads across Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to kind of get that momentum, to kind of introduce the company. Regular campaign strategizing and execution, and weekly, monthly, and quarterly reporting. So a lot of what we shared in that funnel, doing that consistently, telling their story, creating value adds, working with this particular client to create resources that is helpful to these folks before kind of really asking for the sale. Some of the strategy that we implemented: audience targeting. We talked about that, right? Personas. You got to get really specific about who it is that you're trying to target. You really need to think through that. So the example I kind of just gave you, it would be easy to say, oh, we're looking for veterinarians. But the reality is, they're not the ones that are probably spending as much time on social media. It's the office admins of those facilities that are probably managing that practice's social media. They're the ones, we want to get their attention. They're the ones that probably are going to be the advocates saying, hey, we really need this software. This would be great for our practice. So we've got to get really dialed in to who it is that we're actually trying to reach. And sometimes that's not the exact decision maker. Sometimes it's one person below that person. So we got really specific about that. And then just committing to developing and mixing storytelling and content regularly. It's a grind, right? It's a grind. And most businesses, they don't have the time, the desire, the expertise to deal with it. You're going to need help, right? Whether it be someone like us or somebody else at the show, most of the time you're going to need help in some fashion to get it right. Because I guarantee you, most businesses that try to do it themselves, you get busy. And what's the first thing that doesn't get done? The social media posting or things like that. It's not a light switch thing. It doesn't work. You got to stick with it. It's not what you do on any given day. It's the sum of those efforts over a period of time. It's the commitment to just doing it all the time, because you never know when something that you put out is going to land in front of the right person at the right time, when they're ready to raise their hand and say, you know what, I want to learn more about what you have to offer. And then we ran website traffic ads, so retargeting, right? People that actually go to the website, obviously, hey, they've raised their hand or they've expressed interest. We want to capitalize on that. We want to push more content in front of them. They came to the website, they were interested in some capacity. So we kind of combined all of that to basically deliver in essence, these types of results. So significant Facebook growth. They wanted to build a community, right? Raising website traffic lift for them. The website is where people express their interest in looking into their software solution. And the holy grail, leads. At the end of the day, the client's got to see some kind of movement around real qualified leads. And here's another takeaway for you. Whoever you work with, if you decide to work with a consultant, an agency, you demand results. Leads, customers, sales, sign-ups, whatever that is for you. Vanity metrics, they play a part, sure. Leads, customers, sales. That's what matters. It's not easy. Not everybody can pull that off. Find partners that know how to do that and hold themselves to that level of accountability. Last example I kind of want to give you before we kind of go into the last remaining slides is basically a company called Green Bay Converting, which most of you probably have never heard of. They are a manufacturing company, and they came to us because they hire like crazy. They need to hire. So all of their needs around social media predominantly are around hiring people. So that's the goal. So what do? Very similarly, we manage their Facebook and Instagram, running ads, content creation, publishing and management, weekly, monthly reporting. More importantly, the strategy. Brand awareness, conversions, engagement, website traffic, ad campaigns. Getting them in front of prospective employees, people that might be interested in working for this company. So what is it about this specific, what are their differentiators? What types of people are they looking for? What do those type of people typically like, or are they interested in? What are their personal interests? Designing ad strategies to get in front of the right people and highlighting what makes great about working at this company. Storytelling is critical for these guys, right? At the end of the day, you're either qualified for a job or you're not. What really matters is, what's the culture they're like? Pull back the curtains and talk about how great it is to work at this place. A lot of companies aren't good at that, right? They don't like talking about themselves. I don't. You have to. What makes you great? Why should people want to work for you? You tell those stories. And we worked hard with them to create those types of stories to get people interested in working for a company that most had probably never heard of. And then creating effective landing page strategies, right? That's another piece of the puzzle. When you're asking somebody to do a thing, make sure where you're taking them to is specific to that ask. Don't just send them to the front page of your website. That is a waste. Create a landing page that is specific to your ask, that aligns to the ad that you put in front of them and continues that communication path. Don't just send them to the front page of your website, you'll lose them. That's a waste. Create a landing page that is specific to that ask. And basically, what did that result in for them? Significant increase in people reached, lots of engagements. Again, great, part of the story, but again, vanity metrics. What's the most important one? People applying for jobs. So 132 people per month applying for jobs. So it works. I'm not showing you these examples to kind of pat ourselves in the back. I just want to show these to you as you put these things in play, it works. And I wanted to use two very specific examples of things that people don't think about every day that can work on social media. And these are two examples of that. So before wrapping up, I think we're doing pretty good on time. I wanted to share a couple key takeaways for you to be thinking about when it comes to this. The first is, be interesting. It seems kind of simple and basic. Most companies aren't when it comes to their social media. They treat it just like it's a thing that they have to do. It's a checkbox. Oh, did we post today? Let's just get something out. Be interesting. Always ask yourself, what was the point of what we put out today? What purpose did it serve? If you don't have a good answer to that, then you really need to rethink your strategy. So be interesting. Tell stories. Be consistent. Don't turn it on and off. Don't post 1 week and then go 3 weeks without posting. What happens? Well, you're not establishing an audience. People follow companies that are interesting to them and are consistent and somewhat predictable. Oh, I know that they post such and such on these days or this often. This is something worth following and paying attention to. The other damage it does is just from the science of it. If you're posting irregularly and if you're not doing it consistently, your organic reach is not going to be consistent. It can affect your paid results as well. Now, organic reach is non-existent anyway, because the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world want you to spend money with them, but it's still impacted by that. You spend time and money and effort to build up your audience. If you give up on them, they're going to go away. They're going to go away scientifically because you're not getting pushed in front of them, and they're just going to lose interest. So you got to be consistent. You got to find a path to consistency, and only you know whether that can happen internally or whether you need to get help for that. The third is be patient. Not going to happen overnight. For those of you that aren't doing this, don't expect your world to change in a week or a month or even 2 months. Maybe a little bit movement in the first couple months. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Find a great partner or solution on a path to success and see it through. Most people know if a partnership is working or not. Most people have good instincts. You'll know if who you've selected to work with, if it feels right. If you see momentum, if you see the effort and the passion, if you see kind of those baby steps, the crawl, walk, run approach. But you got to be patient. My best advice is 6 months. If you go into a relationship to work with somebody, whether it's an employee or an agency or a consultant, give yourself 6 months to see it really come through. That's how long it typically takes. You'll see some momentum up to that point. That's when the magic really starts to happen. Number 4, get help. Again, this is not a self-interest thing. I just know. I've been doing this for 20, 25 years. There's a reason why there are hundreds of thousands of agencies. Trust me, there's too many of them. There's a lot to choose from. Everybody wants to be a marketer. But generally speaking, you're going to need help. Whether you need somebody to do all of it, or whether you need somebody to do some of it. You need that expertise, you need their time, because guess what? All of you probably are too busy with other things. So it's never going to happen. So you got to find help. Key is finding help that can actually drive measurable results for you and make it easy for you to see that connection. So that investment is worth it to you. And the last, which I just kind of touched on, kind of got in front of myself, demand results. And I'm not talking about Facebook likes and Twitter followers. No, those are great. They feel good. It's awesome to see those numbers go up. It plays a part. It's not what's most important. And you all know this. It's customers, it's leads, it's sales, signups, whatever it is that helps your business grow and be more successful, that's the result that you need and need to be demanding for. Now, your budgets, right, are going to impact what's realistic. You got to have a realistic expectation about what's possible based on what you have to work with. But that's the measuring stick. And anything outside of that is a smoke screen, because the other stuff doesn't matter if those things aren't happening. All right, I promised you some interesting resources before we wrapped up, all right? So if you're taking notes, these are some great tools. I get nothing out of sharing these with you. These are just tools that I have used or find extremely valuable. Some are free, some are paid. The first is called Uber Suggest. It's by a gentleman named Neil Patel, who I've followed for many years. I'm sure some of you have heard of him. It's not as free as it used to be, but there's still a free version. It's a great keyword analysis tool. So Google has one, but it's kind of buried under their platform. You kind of have to sign up, and they kind of make it difficult to use and find. It's good, but it's a little complicated, I think, for those just kind of getting started. Uber Suggest is really great. It's great for doing a keyword analysis, right? To kind of get a sense of, when you think about content, like what are the keyword phrases and words that you should be using maybe in ads or in some of your search marketing, and how it can influence what you do with social. So a great free tool to kind of get some baseline information about search volume and intent. It's a great tool. Free. They have a paid version too, but you can do some things in the free version. AI writing tools are getting really interesting. I don't know how many of you have started to kind of play around with them. We have. It's a little scary, because I think the whole Terminator thing is coming true. Computers are taking over, or will be. I think AI writing is kind of scary in that regard, because it's kind of crazy how good it can be. There's a bunch of different ones. There's Copy AI, Jarvis are a couple that come to mind. Just do a search for AI writing tools. They're pretty inexpensive and kind of low risk. You can do some cool things like, you can test it out and put in some keywords or what you're looking for, and it hasn't gotten to the point where you can just like press a button and it spits out what you need and it's ready to go. It's not that good. If it ever gets to that point, that's pretty scary, but it is pretty good where it gets to the point where you can put in some preliminary info and it comes back out with something that just requires a little bit of editing. So I share this tool because it's just a really valuable tool that could alleviate some of your content marketing needs. It can be effective though, especially for like ad copy and short form. It can be really good. I've tested it with some blog posts and it's a little creepy. Like it does some things. So check it out. I definitely recommend at least testing it out and see how it might work for you. Third self-plug. It's free though, I promise. We have a social media calculator on our website that we developed. It's really easy to use. Just got to plug your email in and you can access a tool that kind of gives you a sense of what should your social media budget be based on your goals and objectives. And we have like a little calculator where you pick like leads or sales and some other questions, and it'll spit out a recommendation like this is probably what you need to spend on social to get the results that you want. So it's free, check it out. It's kind of a cool tool to kind of get a baseline like, from a budget standpoint. What should I be spending? It was based out of like nobody had this, so I'm like, let's build one. So free calculator to use to kind of get a sense of what your paid budget should be. The fourth is a tool called Spark Toro. It's a great audience tool. It's a great tool to use to kind of get some insight around custom audiences and what those would look like for you. You'd be surprised at the depth that audience research can go into. You think you know, and then it just spirals into all these other sub-audiences that you didn't even think of. So having a tool to kind of dive into that can be a really great way to kind of, again, self-educate yourself and kind of get ahead of the curve on making sure that whatever it is that you're creating is designed well for the audience that it's intended for. And then the last is a tool called Hotjar, which is a website analysis tool. When plugged into your website, not only will it give you some insights about what people are looking at on your website in terms of pages and how much time is spent on it, it creates these heat maps that actually shows you where people are, what they're looking at. Don't ask me how, I'm guessing it's the mouse and where the mouse is or something like that. But they create these heat maps and you start to see where were they, how long were they there, what did they look at. Super valuable, right? Because you get a sense of what's working on our website, where are people spending time on it, where are they not, and that can help kind of fuel your website strategy around what works and what doesn't. So that's a really great tool. So all of these things are super helpful things that are either free or low cost that can really give you some insights into how to kind of set yourselves up for success, not only with social media, but just about anything in general. So there you go. You're going to get a couple minutes back in your schedule. Thank you so much for your time today. I've got some free books here. Not as many as I apparently needed because we're blowing through them at our booth, but if you don't get one here, feel free to come by our booth and grab one if you can. And if not, I'll send you one. So they're free. Appreciate your time, and if you have any questions.